Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies of September 3rd until September 10th. As the first week in September is a big one. Now that we have Saturn retrograde back in Pisces, Uranus will station retrograde in Gemini for the first time. Plus, of course, we have the upcoming Pisces Lunar Eclipse. And we've also entered a period of time where Pluto is out of bounds. I will touch on that towards the end of today's show. As always, we discuss the weekly astrology that's unfolding, and I'm going to dive right in because we've got a lot to discuss and cover in today's episode. Now, we've been discussing Saturn's return to Pisces, and did you feel that shift on Monday? Did you feel perhaps an energy heavyweight coming through, perhaps more emotional density, maybe a shift in your own personal energy field? Saturn returning to Pisces, especially at 29 degrees, is a really big deal because what it's returning us to is what we need to clear out and clean up in order for a new beginning to unfold. And because Saturn takes 29 to 30 years to move through all 12 astrology signs, this is the culmination point of the past 29 to 30 years of your life that you are ending and closing out. And so that's a really big deal. And in fact, it can be hard to even understand everything that has accumulated. The final degree of Pisces is a gathering point of these energies. And Saturn was previously here in May 2025. This energy point is also going to be a big focus when Neptune also returns to 29 degrees of Pisces, October, November, December, and January. So whatever is coming up now is requiring your intentional release, dissolving, purification, and work. Now, let me also go into the fact that this is a supreme point of consequences. The ending of Pisces, again, because all the energy has gathered here, there are consequences. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, of course, it depends on what you have created, what you have intended, what is unfinished, and what you need to wind up and close out. This is, of course, personal for all of us. And it's where you'll be drawn to doing the most clearing and purging work. Part of the lessons and mastery of Saturn is to understand the power of your energy, is to understand more about what you have created that you are experiencing in the physical world. And so the consequences show up based on your own energetic intention, your spiritual evolution, your self-awareness, and your consciousness. And I feel that these energies are even more accelerated because of the Pisces lunar eclipse that's happening this weekend, as well as the emphasis on Virgo energies here in Virgo season. So what is unfolding is that we are meeting the consequences of our own unconsciousness and our own intentions. And just to share with you a few things that I've learned about energy through the years is that your intention is always tethered to you. And I remember years ago when I was studying with a mentor over 20 years ago, she told me about the importance of working with your own intentions from a high vibrational state. Now, there are many understandings of energy work, and people take many different approaches to energy work. But because your intention is always tethered to you, it means that whatever you are sending out and creating is the signal you're giving the universe of what you want to experience. This is why it's worth your while to invest in how to improve yourself, how to heal yourself, what you can do differently, how you can be more joyful, happy, peaceful, how you can be guided to make the choices that are for your best and highest good, even if other people don't understand them, how you can trust in yourself more and follow your own soul growth trajectory with greater confidence. All of these are beautiful intentions, and this is where the energy will come back to you because you're signaling to the universe, this is what I want to experience. Now, conversely, there are people who don't have those intentions, who wish harm and ill will on others, who send out negative energy attacks, who wish them to be damaged or to experience pain. And that's essentially saying that if you want someone to slip and fall on a banana peel, what you've just intended that the universe hears is that you've placed your order for yourself to slip and fall on a banana peel, because that's the power of your intention. So as Saturn moves through these final degrees of Pisces, 29 to 25 degrees, the consequences of original intention are going to come slamming through the door, hitting people in the face if they haven't been using energy work, intentionality, and spiritual practices for their own best and highest good. This is how the universe affirms your creative power. This is also where people will try to abdicate responsibility and negate what they've chosen. Personally, I'm really conservative with energy work. I only focus on what I want to create that would benefit my loved ones, myself, the world at large. I see it as a concentric circle, focusing on self, family, community, then humanity. And how can you create a ripple effect from your own sense of intention, from your own power that ripples out across your family, community, and humanity to better the energy on the planet? That is one thing that this Saturn in Pisces can also help you manifest. So as Saturn continues into Pisces, stay very intentional with your own spiritual responsibility, with your own energy and intentions, and know that whatever you're placing an order for, even if you think it's directed at someone else, it's not. It always is tethered back to you. The universe heard your order, and when your order is up, here it comes, because that's how you chose to use your energy. This means that Saturn in Pisces is going to continue to reveal where there have been failures through Saturn structures, authorities, leadership, business matters, hierarchy, responsibilities, commitments, and soul purpose. These are just some of the overarching themes here that Saturn is going to bring our attention to. How have I been showing up and responsibly honoring my power? Saturn is where you show up. So there's things you're going to have to show up for that might be really uncomfortable and be a challenge. And of course, we know it's always about a spiritual lesson, mastery, and growth. At least that's the perspective from the higher realms. And so that brings me to another point and theme that is unfolding over this next week, which is duality. With Saturn now back in Pisces and this upcoming Pisces lunar eclipse, we have a focal point of Pisces energies here, including the North Node in Pisces, that are opposing the South Node in Virgo, the Sun in Virgo, and Mercury in Virgo. So the Virgo energies are what we're meant to let go of and clear out. We're meant to see what is not satisfying, what's not healthy, what isn't bringing the results you want. Now, the Virgo energy, I'm going to talk about it in the lower expressions. The Virgo energies can be shallow, petty, critical, mean, and seek to understand from an often limited rationale perspective. We are meant to be noticing these parts of ourselves where we go into judgment, where we become petty or think we understand something, but truly we just have a limited perspective. What we're meant to be learning, especially with the Pisces lunar eclipse conjunct this North Node in Pisces, is how can I move forward? How can I make choices that are for my best and highest good, that honor my growth and who I am now from a place of do no harm? How can I move ahead with compassion and personal understanding of what I've been learning without it being something negative against another? Is it possible? Is it possible to make a choice or do something that you know is part of something bigger and important for you without it meaning to be an insult, rejection, or critical decision about another? Now, this is going to bring up how we want to understand things. People can be taking actions and making choices, and you don't know why. You don't have enough information. You don't know the full story. You don't know the bigger understanding or bigger lesson. You just don't know. But with the South Node here in Virgo, the Sun, Mercury, all working with the South Node, we want to understand. And this is where people can come up with petty reasons and self-interested statements based on maybe their past, what they've experienced before, their limited perspective, their ego, their sense of needing to be in control, which that lower expression of Virgo wants to manage, wants to maintain, wants to preserve something. But that South Node in Virgo is showing you maybe there's another way to understand this. Maybe I don't have all the information. Maybe it's none of my business. Maybe I can accept that people are doing things right now during this big time on the planet that's for their best and highest good, and it has nothing to do with any kind of lower interpretation. And this is coming up for all of us with this Pisces lunar eclipse and that North Node in Pisces. Your intention to do no harm, to move forward, to trust yourself and honor your personal growth is absolutely seen and understood by the universe. And if a petty peanut gallery doesn't get it, so be it. And if someone's ego wants to try to control the narrative, so be it. If you are willing to grow and enter into new territory because you're willing to be that brave and that strong, and other people don't have a connection to that same energy field, so be it. This Pisces energy is dissolving our egos. It's dissolving how we've previously perceived energies. It's asking us to surrender into the unknown of who you're becoming. And that will involve misunderstandings. In fact, you could say that the road and pathway to personal enlightenment is paved with misunderstandings, judgment, criticism, and pettiness. But what we're learning is how to be better. And this lunar eclipse is going to remove anything that is confining you and holding you back, that's going to show you your own lower expressions, anything in your ego or your mind that is too small and too limited. Because one of the wisest things we can say right now with these energies in Pisces is, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't have all the information. I don't know the full story. And that can be very honest and very humbling. Everyone is on an important phase of their soul growth with this North Node in Pisces. And that means there are things that are none of your business. There are things that you're not going to fully get or grasp. And that's where our ego takes a step back. The mind takes a step back and can open up into the humbleness and humility of your soul. So as we continue to move into September, these energies are going to strengthen. And it's up to each of us to maintain a grounded perspective on what we're learning to do differently, what we're learning about ourselves that just isn't working anymore, how we can't escape it. Saturn in Pisces is not going to let you animate the same coping mechanisms. There's things that we got to look at in ourselves. And then with that comes a willingness to say, I'm willing to grow, even when it's scary. And especially when it's unknown. The duality theme is heightened this month, and the duality is going to show up very strongly between our humanness and our spiritual self. And this is the duality of Pisces, where Pisces is the two fishes swimming up and swimming back down, where we seek a bigger understanding. We want to connect to a spiritual perspective to make sense of all this wild humanness. How do I understand things that don't make sense? How do I practice compassion for mean-spirited people? How do I download greater forgiveness into my heart when I'm an imperfect person just doing the best I can? In other words, how do you become and practice the movement of those two fishes, where you are willing to surrender away from what you've known, done, and practiced to go higher, to see yourself through the lens of your higher self? And then how do you return into your humanness with your personal perceptions, your expectations, your inner critic, and the stress of daily life showing up right in front of you, and still maintain that embodied connection to your higher self? This is our work. This is the Virgo season work, where how you are walking the talk and showing up behind the scenes matters. It doesn't matter what you declare publicly if that's not truly who you are, what you feel, or what you're about, because the energies aren't going to allow it anymore. That's the dissolving away of what is false and untrue, dissolving it away ultimately for the best and highest good of all of us, to genuinely see each other, to see each other in our purity, in our mastery, in our deep connection to unconditional love. Can you do that when there are opposing forces showing up? Can you walk with the intention to do no harm amongst lies, malicious gossip, ego-based statements? All of that is meant to fall away. The wheels are turning. Humanity is meant to evolve out of these practices, out of these ways of being, because it's not even your true self. And this is where the consequences show up faster, and this is where the energies come through clearer. We are meant to walk and show up in our higher frequencies now. The time is now. It's not in 2 years. It's not someday when it's convenient for you. It's today. It's now. That's what 2025 has been about. And this eclipse season is an invitation for your growth, especially if it's uncomfortable, especially if you don't like what you see in the mirror, especially if you feel shame or guilt about certain things. This is the time to face it and to work with that self-forgiveness, to work with the unconditional love that your soul is always holding for you, to be more compassionate as you are becoming a new version of yourself, and to hold that standard high. And even when it sinks or you fall away from it, you return to it. You return to that high standard of who you came to be in this lifetime that is going to require you to be more brave and more courageous in your authenticity than ever before. It will be misunderstood. It will be judged. It will be criticized. And then you keep going. And this is a week where there can be some significant turnabouts and revelations. On Thursday, September 4th, we have Mars in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees. Mars in Libra holds the intention of communication, wanting to discuss things. Now, Mars in Libra can come to the table fired up and pissed off about something, but in Libra, there can be a desire for that resolution. You know, we hear the term conflict resolution, and we tend to focus on the word conflict instead of the fact that resolution is hanging out there as the main intention. Mars in Libra wants to resolve things, wants to figure it out, wants there to be a win-win and a justice of some kind, especially for both parties. But this is where you could have disagreements that get bigger through that square to Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter will amplify the feelings. And because Cancer is connected to the past, you could be feeling that whatever's coming up for you is actually based on a previous circumstance. Is it really about right now? Are you really addressing something that's happening in the present moment? Or are you holding all this emotional baggage from something you went through that actually you're intending to clear out now? That can be something to look at if you feel this transit in your own life. In fact, with Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees, it is sextiling the South Node in Virgo, which is, let me take care of this. Let me finish this so I can grow and move on. And let me accept what is, which is a Virgo strength. You work with what is. You accept the reality of the present moment, and there could be something pushing at you that you feel you need to have a conversation around. But with the square, it'd be good to hold off and not approach that conversation on September 4th so that you can allow some of that emotional intensity to phase out. Now, as we approach the weekend, the energies get turned up and they are a little bit more disruptive, wild, and erratic. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. Because Uranus stations retrograde at 1 degree, 28 minutes of Gemini on September 5th or September 6th, depending on your time zone. It's exact September 6th at 12:51 a.m. Eastern Time. And so with this Uranus stationing retrograde, there are bigger cosmic shock waves moving through the collective. And Uranus is going to disrupt what has been previously stated or said. This is where information is going sideways so you can see the other side of the story. That's part of Gemini, is that it is the twins. It is the left side of the body and the right side of the body. It's our ability to manage and work with multiple things at the same time. And so Uranus in Gemini has maybe been stirring up the pot, spouting off, saying things. It's almost like this Uranus can be so crazy and erratic that it is speaking without true intention or true knowingness of the power of words. As it stations retrograde, we're going to feel at a core level of our being the power of words, thoughts, and energy even more. In fact, I'm seeing this station retrograde as a direct awakening, like blasting open boom goes the dynamite to a new level of truth and understanding that we're meant to see. That, again, it can be uncomfortable. Uranus loves that. Uranus loves to pull the rug out from under us or throw in a cherry bomb. But I feel that what is going to awaken within us are more downloads into our everyday consciousness. More downloads come streaming in about the bigger picture of something. And so for you, you'd look at where you have 1 degree, 28 minutes of Gemini in your chart, because this Uranus is shaking the ground, the roof, and the walls so that you can see more and bring in more information that is important and perhaps has been overlooked. Turnarounds, plot twists, switchbacks, head-spinning revelations. What just happened? What's going on? And it starts to activate both sides of the brain, the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere. Even though we tend to have one that's more dominant, that's more comfortable, Uranus and Gemini says, okay, let's see what happens when you have to see and understand something from a whole new angle. I'm getting the visual of taking an essay. And the assignment is, okay, take this essay and now turn into a single piece of art. Take the message that's right here and put it into another form. And so there's this topsy-turvy dynamic at play. And then you got to figure it out. You're like, well, how do I do that? That's exactly what can transpire with this Uranus stationing retrograde. We are receiving some very big, loud messages that turn around what we thought or had assumed, that switches what we're talking about and thinking about, and that wants us to expand how we use our minds. Our personal processing systems are being upgraded, and they need to allow in things that we never considered before, information we never thought about. I also find it interesting that because this is happening in Gemini, Gemini is also a mutable sign, mutable, just like Virgo and Pisces. And the mutable signs are about being adaptable with a willingness to see things in a new light, in a new way. The mutable signs prepare us for the next season, literally. So here we are in Virgo season, which is the season of harvest, looking at what you have grown, what you have prepared, what has come about for you that you can use in some capacity in your life. Virgo season is where we understand this is how my energy works and how can I improve my energy? Meaning, what do I need to do differently? Do I need to slow down more? Do I need to work out more? Do I need to sleep more? What do I need to do to improve my daily experiences? And you could have some full shocking awareness around what needs to be switched up and changed around. The adaptability of Virgo is a strength, and it's based in realism. It's based in a sense of, I don't want this anymore. This isn't good for me. This isn't healthy. This isn't satisfying. What can I do to improve myself, improve how my energy runs through me to be a healthier, stronger version of myself? Especially knowing that the sun will enter Libra on the Libra equinox, which will be on September 22nd this year. And so Virgo brings us into our complete personal responsibility of who I am becoming, how I am living my life before entering into Libra, which is the sharing and mutual exchange of energies with others. So the assignment of Virgo season, as I mentioned, it's very strong this year because of the duality with the Pisces energies. But then you bring in this wild card brilliance of Uranus and Gemini. You're going to have some really fascinating breakthroughs of where you're ready to make life transitions. I mean, if you're ready to quit your job and run off and join the circus, that's what this energy is. And in fact, it's right on time because Virgo is giving us our reality check on this is my life. This is how I'm living my life. And then here we have Uranus and Gemini saying, but I want different. I want more. I'm ready to do this or try this. Why not? So there's a why not quality here. And maybe you're feeling that in some level of your being. It's pulsing through and you have a sense of, if not now, when? And that's definitely what eclipses will stir up in us. And so right after Uranus stations retrograde, again, September 5th and 6th, The next day, September 7th, is when that Pisces lunar eclipse is exact at 15 degrees at 2:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I have a video for you on YouTube going through this chart more specifically, if you would like to check that out. But here in my podcast, I've already touched on some of the Pisces themes that are happening this week and throughout September. But this is going to be a faster moving removal process. This is where that lunar eclipse accelerates what you need to see and get rid of. And the dissolving doesn't always mean it's a physical thing. It could simply be a part of yourself, a part of yourself that has been limited, going back to the mind, the ego, where you've been afraid to surrender or go higher into more that you're meant to understand. You could find yourself quickly surrendering, and that can feel very vulnerable. There is vulnerability here in the Pisces lunar eclipse, but I feel it as a message that you're strong enough to be soft, strong enough to trust the unknown, and to move with these bigger tides of change, which Pisces represents. Pisces is depth. It's feeling lost at sea. It's the deepest parts of the ocean. And in fact, on that note, I want to call in that Sedna in Gemini is also stationing retrograde at this time. And Uranus in Gemini is basically conjunct Sedna, adding more depth to the true stories we're meant to understand. Now, really quickly, Sedna is a dwarf planet. It's a trans-Neptunian planet, so beyond Neptune, that is connected with the archetype of an Inuit goddess of the sea. She's connected with the underworld of the sea, the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Think of the Mariana Trench and the still undiscovered parts of the ocean that we have yet to fully understand. That's the domain of Sedna. And she takes us into the depths of really difficult feelings and emotions so that we can move through them and gain wisdom from deep loss, deep betrayal, sacrifice, and some of the most uncomfortable human emotions that there is. Sedna is a guide through these darkest parts of our emotional world. Again, our emotional underworld. And as she stations retrograde, conjunct Uranus and Gemini stationing retrograde, we're getting new insights into how to move through certain stories, chapters, and narratives to see ourselves as powerful, growing, and healing, and to know that there's new perspectives we can embody that we don't see at first, especially in Gemini, fast-moving Gemini, gotta sprint, gotta get there. Give me all the information right now. With these two planets stationing retrograde in the very early degrees of Gemini, there can be some galactic shocks. There can be some undercurrents that start to get louder, and you're able to see what you didn't see before as part of a bigger story. More revelations and truths are arriving that might be hard to fully digest and place, but we are meant to be aware of it. And here we have yet again another mutable planet that's strong this week. Now, I realized I was talking about the Pisces lunar eclipse, and then I moved back into the energy of Gemini. How very fitting with all these mutable signs. See, this is how the mutable signs work. They don't stay in one place. They're bouncing around, moving over here, going over there. Mutable signs are chameleons. They're how we adjust to circumstances or environments. And in fact, what I'm feeling here is that with the strong mutable energy this week and this Pisces lunar eclipse, people are going to be transforming rapidly, transitioning into a higher version of themselves quickly, perhaps even overnight. You might just have some sudden breakthroughs in very deep soul wisdom that you've been pushing away, and you're like, I got it. It hit me. I get it. I'm seeing it. And I feel like these are the blasts of awakenings that are going to be working with people throughout this eclipse season. And it could be, again, something that your mind is like trying to compartmentalize, logically understand, wondering, does this make sense? And it's interesting because how I'm seeing it is that When you have some quantum leaps in your spiritual growth, it never makes sense at first. You feel lost in a desert. You don't know where you are. That's what it's meant to be. That's where you're meant to go. And I think that's going to be happening with a quickness for those of you who are ready to surrender and to simply say, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't have the full story. I don't have all the information. That really sucks for my ego. My mind is struggling to figure it out. And maybe it hurts. That's another thing, is that the mind and the ego will jump right in to override any sadness, grief, confusion, any of those emotions we don't want to feel. We will push it away by overriding it with a story that maybe strengthens us, but that's only temporary because those stories are closing out. And I'm getting the visual that the body can't hold those limitations anymore. We are now able to powerfully hold and sustain more high frequency light codes and crystalline energies than ever before. And that's why things just slip off or slip away. And even if the mind tries to play a good game with you, that's not going to work. This isn't an arcade. There's no games here. This is the energy being so real, powerful, and truthful with you that it can't be denied. And that's another game that the Pisces energy can play. Well, let me deny it. Let me avoid it. Let me resist it. Let me not look at it. Let me ignore it, procrastinate, hesitate, deny, delay. You get the gist. This is not an arcade. You cannot play those games with the universe anymore, and you can't play those games with yourself. And that's how we are learning and advancing more than ever, because we're being guided to be more powerful in our authentic feelings, in our intuitive messages, in our sense of self. If you're willing to welcome that in, you're going to have these fast-moving transitions and life changes that have your name on it. There will be rewards. There will be rewards for your strength and bravery to move into the unknown, to trust your own soul growth path, and to honor who you are now, even when others don't get it, don't understand it. But if you're a light worker, starseed, empath, family disruptor, energy guide, you're used to that by now. You've got all the Girl Scout badges for that. So it's not new, it's part of your mastery. Now, I also had a separate podcast for you discussing the Pisces Lunar Eclipse. That's why I'm not going into it too much in today's show. That was back on August 18th. And it also included more of the specifics of the Pisces Lunar Eclipse, including weather extremes, global karma, leadership failures and endings, unfinished responsibilities, and more about what we are learning through the energies of enlightenment, unity consciousness, and forgiveness. Now, the final thing I want to touch on is Pluto Out of Bounds, which is a rare event that is now happening once a year for the next 10 years. And so you're saying, but how is it rare if it's happening once a year for the next 10 years? Well, because the last time that Pluto was out of bounds was through the time period of 1938 to 1953. So it's been about almost 75 years since Pluto has done this little out of bounds dance. Now, out of bounds essentially means that Pluto is outside of the sun's path as it relates to Earth. And so this has to do with the celestial equator on the Earth, and Pluto is basically moving south of a normal pathway. It's measured through declination, which is just over 23 degrees north or south of the celestial equator. It's similar to when something is just outside of your peripheral viewpoint, only instead of being to your right or your left, it's from north and south. Okay, so Pluto is out of bounds, meaning Pluto is more wild, erratic, untethered, extreme. You can't catch me. You can't touch me. That's what this Pluto energy is all about. August 29th until November 23rd. And during this first period of Pluto being out of bounds, this is where we start to see more extremes coming through the Pluto expressions in Aquarius. As I say this, I'm thinking about how China just had a recent military parade putting on display their huge collection of weapons, armor, and military authority and power. This right here beautifully demonstrates Pluto out of bounds in Aquarius, no less. It was a very obvious show of force, and it also put on display world leaders who had never been seen together in this capacity. It was the first time these weapons were put on display, including hypersonic missiles, underwater drones, advanced precision warfare equipment, robot wolves, and cyber troops. This is exactly Pluto in Aquarius out of bounds. The extreme measures to demonstrate power, strength, and authority, plus the collective energies involved, and the message it sends to the world. Pluto out of bounds does what it pleases, when it wants, how it wants, without regard for others. The intensity it stirs up is quite profound. And when I look at how this is going to continue every year, basically August through December, every year, 2025 to 2035. So the second half of the year, Pluto goes out of bounds and stirs up more of where humanity's evolution can potentially go. And it definitely will include more galactic forces, cosmic beings, space experiments, new technologies, DNA experiments, especially DNA experiments being done in space. This is transhumanism, the merging of humans with these new technologies, how nothing is impossible and anything is on the table. Now, I do want to reference the work of Leah Whitehorse and her Substack article discussing Pluto out of bounds. She's done a great job of explaining these energies even more, including the history of Pluto out of bounds. So I'll put a link below the podcast if you would like to go check out Leah's write-up on this, or you can go find it on Substack. So her name is Leah Whitehorse, and the Pluto out of bounds information is on her weekly astrology forecast for August 25th through the 31st. Now, a final message for this week is to be very honest with yourself around what you're feeling and what is coming up for you, because as we've discussed, that is the work. Pisces is the last divine feminine energies of the zodiac wheel. We are each being invited into more of our own higher expressions of divine feminine truth, and to be in our power even when emotions might feel messy and uncomfortable. So this is where we're being invited to honor the truth of how we feel. And I'm seeing this deeply connected to the higher heart, where in the higher heart realms, we're able to handle all of the various emotions and energies on the planet. We're able to remain heart-centered, strong, and loving regardless of external experiences. We're able to stay grounded in that higher heart energy, knowing that there is much wisdom to embody from it. And we don't have to push it away. We don't have to override it with the mind or the ego. And we don't even have to take it personally. We can just allow it to flow through and simply be a part of an experience that is guiding us as we continue on our paths. We are learning how to continue to be strong in our softness, to not only rely on hard edges to shape and form us. And this could be a beautiful time to practice any kinds of prayers or words of compassion that remind you of your soul and remind you that everyone is also on their own soul path. I'm thinking of the Ho'oponopono prayer that is about love, acceptance, detachment, and forgiveness, all beautiful Pisces themes. So may the energies of this week beautifully advance you on your soul path. May you feel an even deeper connection to your own divine spark and divine wisdom. And may the Pisces full moon lunar eclipse illuminate exactly what you're ready to see at this time. And may we all learn to be just a little bit more kinder and compassionate to ourselves and others as we move through this month. As always, I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday with a new podcast episode. And if you're on my email list, I have something to share with you this weekend that I hope helps to lift your energy and support you as we move through the rest of this year. So I'll be sharing that with you during this eclipse portal. As always, wishing you a beautiful journey through these astrological energies. And thank you for your time, energy, and presence. I deeply appreciate that you make time to listen to this podcast, and I certainly hope it supports you in what you're experiencing at this time. Take good care, and I'll see you back here next week.